Hey, it's Brittany with Mountain TV, and we are jumping in with Brian today. We have lots to cover with Avalanche safety. It has been a busy one for you. So let's go ahead and jump in with a few of those updates, Brian.
Yeah, it's been a welcome return of winter. It is great to see snow return to Colorado after our long dry spell. It did lead to, an uptick in avalanche danger and really dangerous avalanche conditions. But I kind of want to just start by looking at the statewide snowpack picture. And so here's an image of our snowpack on January 12th. So this was after kind of our New Year's storms, which did help us, but before the Martin Luther King storms. And you can see that most of our river basins were sitting in, the 70s percentile, low 80s at best. Just after the snow that's fallen in just the last week, you can see we're in much better shape with, the Colorado headwaters, for example, at 97% of long-term median. So this is great news. And if we look at this on kind of a time series graph, you can see here, this is snow water equivalent on the ground, averaged across the state of Colorado. The red line is last season, just for comparison. The green line here is our long-term median, and then the black line is this season. And so you can see where the line went flat in December. That means we had very, very little snowfall. That led to the development of all that really weak snow on the snow surface, which then started to get buried in early January. So you can see that shortly after New Year, that black line starts to climb quite steeply. And now we're sitting at 90% of long-term median in terms of snowpack in the state of Colorado, which is great news, but it did also make for dangerous avalanche conditions.
Sure. Now, Brian, can you give us a little refresher on how you gather this data?
Yeah, so the data I'm showing here comes from SNOTEL sites, and these are remote weather stations which measure snowfall, and they're maintained and run by the Natural Resource Conservation Service. This is just a subset of the data we use at the Avalanche Center here, and we supplement the information we get from the SNOTEL sites with snowfall reports from ski areas, with our forecasters in the field measuring snowfall and snow water equivalent along our state's transportation corridors, guide services, and then just crowdsourcing from people that are out in the field. So that's how we kind of build that data set. But what's the other highlight of all this snow is that anyone who was out over Martin Luther King weekend knows it came with a ton of wind. And so here's a good example of just how much wind drifting was going on during and after that snowfall. And what that does is it drifts all that new snow, and it creates more cohesive slabs, which then built over those weak layers. And that's what this video shows here. You can see that new cohesive snow is sitting over those weak layers that developed during the drought, and that's what he's excavating here with his hand. And so those are the avalanches that are breaking, and they're breaking 3 to even 4 feet deep in heavily wind-loaded slopes. And here's a good example of what those avalanches looked like. You can see this avalanche running up top will trigger another one partway down on the right-hand side there. And this was happening all over the place. People were getting cracking, audible collapsing. Avalanches were running naturally. And you can see here, our avalanche activity was very widespread. It was on all aspects and all elevations, as you can see here by the rows. And although a lot of the wind-loaded slopes on the east side of the compass saw most avalanches, you can see really no aspect or elevation was safe. Similarly, no place in the state was really safe. You can see that, everywhere from the Wyoming border down into the New Mexico border saw widespread avalanche activity. And then this graph along the bottom shows that we see an uptick in avalanche danger every time we get snow, with our latest peak happening just right over the Martin Luther King holiday. So while we're easing avalanche danger as we exit Thursday and move into the weekend, we are still going to see very dangerous avalanche conditions. And that's because we added more fuel to the fire. So here's the Wednesday into Thursday storm, and you can see we added, up to 2 feet of new snow up in north of Steamboat, a foot along the Front Range. It got down into the Central Mountains. And so that's going to keep avalanche activity heightened as we move into the weekend, because we're just adding more to those cohesive slabs over the weak layers. So dangerous avalanche conditions are going to persist through the weekend. We really want to encourage people to rethink how they've been approaching the backcountry. This is a whole new snowpack from what we saw prior to the new year. Avalanches are going to be breaking wide. They're going to be breaking deep. A lot of them are going to not be survivable. And so even though we might not see avalanche warnings through the weekend and into early next week, dangerous avalanche conditions are going to persist. And you're going to see a lot of orange on the map or considerable avalanche danger, which is level 3 out of 5. And that still means human triggered avalanches are likely. So people really need to take a cautious approach and give slopes steeper than about 30 degrees really wide buffers.
I definitely agree. Definitely take some caution. And if we want to gain more information or kind of follow along on this, Brian, where's the best place to go?
Yeah, the best place to get up-to-date, information, because it does vary a bit throughout the state. Particularly that Wednesday, Thursday storm brought more snow the further north you went, so conditions are different than they are in the southern mountains. So go to Colorado.gov/avalanche to get your latest forecast, or you can get that through our mobile app as well.
Fantastic, Brian. Thanks so much for hopping in here and chatting with us about all things to be aware of for avalanche safety. Appreciate the updates.